All right. Well, thank you everybody for coming. I really appreciate it. So tonight the presentation is mostly going to be about Dave Stenhouse, but as I'll be talking a little bit about later, there is also a sports history exhibit over at the Babcock Smith House, and we're going to take a walk over there after for anybody who's interested, and we can go see that. So again, thank you all for being here, and with that, I guess I'll just jump right in. So, to begin, David Rochford Stenhouse was born on September 12, 1933, to Clarence D. and Mary G. Driscoll Stenhouse. He was the first of two sons born to Clarence and Mary, and was followed in 1944 by a brother Nick, who was a great athlete in his own right. At the time of Dave's birth, Clarence worked at the Bradford Dyeing Association, and the family was living in the mill supervisor's house at 3 Douglas Park in Bradford. Later, his family moved to 19 Westminster Street in Westerly, where he would live early in his professional baseball career. And Dave Stenhouse attended Westerly High School from 1947 to 1951. During his time there, he played several sports, including 3 seasons of baseball, 3 seasons of basketball, and 1 season of football. During his baseball career at WHS, the team went 32-12. During his sophomore year, he was the class president, and the following year, he was vice president. Interestingly, it was basketball that Stenhouse actually excelled at, and he served as a captain, being named the leader of the team for his senior season in 1950-1951. During that season, the Bulldogs won their 3rd state championship, going a perfect 12-0. And actually, and as I mentioned, he did excel at basketball, and some people, even after his baseball career, would say that that was possibly his best sport, but he was very good at both. But basketball was the one he took to early on. And here are a few photos, and actually, hopefully you can see those. But those are from his early baseball career at the high school. And actually, I think it's interesting, the one from 1950. So it hasn't come up yet, but he actually was primarily a pitcher. And by primarily, I mean entirely. But he also was actually a pretty good hitter, as we'll see some of the statistics. He actually did pretty well, especially for a pitcher. And here are some photos from across the years when he was playing basketball at the high school as well. And after graduating from Westerly in 1951, he attended the University of Rhode Island, where he played sports all 4 years. In addition to playing baseball, he played basketball for the Rams and was named a co-captain for his senior season. During his junior basketball season in 1953-54, Dave led the team in scoring with 17.1 points per game. Over the 4 seasons that he played baseball at URI, the team had a lackluster record of 25 wins to 42 losses, and he himself actually had a record of just 11 wins to 16 losses. And that is the only picture I could find of him when he played baseball at URI, which again kind of reinforces that at times basketball was seen as the primary sport for him, because it was a lot easier to find pictures of him playing basketball there. The baseball one, that was the only one. So those are a few of the photos I was able to find for URI basketball. And actually, again, there's quite a few of those. It was a lot easier to find those ones. So actually, while he was attending URI, he also played semi-professional baseball in Canada during the summer in 1952, 53, and 54. In 1952, he played for the Grand Falls, New Brunswick Cataracts, and was named the New Brunswick Main League All-Star team at the end of the season, when he finished with a record of 12-6. In addition to leading the league in strikeouts as a pitcher, he also batted .302 with 1 home run, 8 RBIs, and 1 stolen base. In 1953 and 54, he pitched for the Kentville, Nova Scotia Wildcats, and in 1953, he again played very well when he had a record of 13 wins to 6 losses. In 1954, Stenhouse briefly left Canada to attend an Army training camp during the summer, but when he did pitch, he was once again fantastic, as he was serving as the team's ace. And if you thought the other pictures were bad, unfortunately, this is the only one I could find of him. And they say that 1/3 from the left is supposedly him. It's hard to tell, but that is the only one I could find of any of his appearances when he was playing in Canada. So unfortunately, that's what we have to go with. But supposedly 1/3 from the left is him.
Zach, were there no American leagues? Why was he in Canada?
There were. I'm actually not entirely sure why he chose to go to Canada. Yeah.
A little easier to get into pro ball.
Yeah, actually, that's a great point too. Yeah, because it is, and I think also part of it was because well, even today there's pretty strict rules around college eligibility. So it was when he was in college. So I'm not sure if there maybe weren't as many opportunities where you could still be an amateur and not considered a professional at that point. So I think that might be one of the reasons.
And that was for the summer, though, right?
Yeah, so that was, yeah.
Besides Cape Cod, there wasn't a lot
Yeah.
of leagues
Yeah.
available in the summer.
Yeah, and so in 1955, Branch Rickey, who was then the executive vice president of the Pittsburgh Pirates, completed a scouting report on Stenhouse. And if anybody's not familiar with Branch Rickey, he also, yes, I can see Anna's indicating that she does know. He, in addition to working with the Pirates, also was with the Brooklyn Dodgers for many years, and he is the one who brought Jackie Robinson in and gave him that opportunity to play with the Dodgers. So it's somebody who definitely knows talent when he sees it, and so it carries a lot of weight when he made an assessment of Dave Stenhouse. In that scouting report, he notes that in May of that year, so 1955, Stenhouse pulled a tendon in his elbow, which hampered his ability to throw the ball hard. But he also called attention to Stenhouse's knuckle curve, which is a pitch that he became known for, and one that was fairly rare at that time. And he was also described as an intelligent pitcher with aptitude and excellent control of his pitches. But unfortunately, the uncertain recovery from his injury was noted as a pretty big reason for concern. And here is, if you can actually see that from here, it's hard to tell if it's actually visible, unfortunately. But that is a copy of the scouting report that is available in the Branch Rickey collection through the Library of Congress. So that gives you a little bit more of a sense of the full picture of that assessment. And on June 30th, 1955, Stenhouse was signed by the Chicago Cubs as an amateur free agent. He had also received offers from the Pittsburgh Pirates and the Milwaukee Braves, but opted for the contract with Chicago, citing better opportunities with the team. And considering that he got an offer from the Pirates, I would think that, Branch Rickey's assessment still, he figured that even with that injury, it was still worthwhile to make that offer, but he ultimately did end up signing with the Cubs. And because he was drafted midway through the season, he only saw limited action with the Cubs' Class B affiliate, the Burlington Bees of Iowa. He was also given permission to leave the team in mid-September to complete his degree in industrial engineering at URI. Little is known about his first season, but it is known that he pitched in 6 games and had at least 1 loss. Stenhouse also participated in 4 games with Burlington in 1956, leaving with a record of 0-2. And the following season, he spent a vast majority of his time pitching for the Class C Lafayette Oilers of Louisiana. While in Lafayette, Stenhouse was witness to a dubious piece of baseball history. By the time the Evangeline League, in which the Oilers played, folded in 1957, it had not integrated, despite the integration of the major leagues a decade earlier in 1947. In 1956, the Chicago Cubs attempted to force the Oilers to integrate by sending players of color down to their team. The Oilers refused to accept these players, and Lafayette Parish made it illegal for black players to play in their ballparks. The Evangeline League also banned black players from playing in the league. As a result, the playoffs were canceled in 1956, and the Oilers folded mid-season the following year in 1957. While nothing is known about Stenhouse's opinions on the matter, it is known that he had a fantastic season on the mound in 1956, winning his first 8 games. In 26 games, he compiled a record of 16-4 with a 1.92 earned run average, 8.9 strikeouts per 9 innings, and 14 complete games. At the end of the regular season, the Oilers held a Dave Stenhouse night on his last night with the team before leaving to attend William and Mary College for the fall semester. And the fact that they actually held a specific night for someone who was only there for one full season really tells you how much they held him in high regard and, how well he actually did play for them. And so I thought that was pretty important, and that is one of the headlines from the local newspaper there. And so in 1957, Dave Stenhouse was called up to the Cubs Class A affiliate. So actually, I think I got it backwards with the B and the C. So the Des Moines Demons, where he would spend the entire season. In 35 games, he would finish with a record of 12 wins and 13 losses, and a serviceable earned run average of 3.54. He led the league in strikeouts with 154 on the season. Stenhouse's early career was marked by control and consistency as he surrendered less than 1 home run per 9 innings. And unfortunately, a lot of the images that we do have of his time in the minor leagues come from newspapers, and when they are scanned, they kind of come out a little hard to see, but these are unfortunately some of the best that we have of this period, because there weren't too many team photos that were taken, especially at this level, that are still available. But so the 2 on the outside are just him from when he was in Des Moines, and then the middle is just an ad for a game when he was playing there during that season. 1958 would prove to perhaps be Stenhouse's finest in the minor leagues, as he had a stellar season starting with the Class A Pueblo Bruins of Colorado. With Pueblo, Stenhouse would finish with a record of 16-8 and an earned run average of 2.91. Stenhouse had a complete game in 17 of the 26 games he started for the Bruins. And that statistic in particular is important because it really tells you a lot about the game at that time, because no one is completing 17 games in the modern era. And back then it was a little bit more common, but it still really showed that, he was pitching quite well because they were keeping him in these games. But finishing 17 of 26 games is completely unheard of today. So, there's a lot of innings also going into his arm, which we'll see at times prove to be a bit of an issue. On June 20th, 1958, Dave Stenhouse took the mound in Topeka, Kansas, and by the time he walked off, he had a no-hitter and nearly had a perfect game. On this night, Stenhouse struck out 11 batters, walked only 1, and 1 batter reached on an error, but was immediately removed by a double play. After showing signs of great promise in Pueblo, he was called up to the Class AA Fort Worth Cats, where he would start just 6 games and finish with a record of only 1-1. On December 2nd, 1958, Dave Stenhouse was drafted by the Cincinnati Redlegs, as they were known very briefly from 1953 to 58, in the minor league draft. The Redlegs then immediately assigned Stenhouse to the Class AAA Seattle Rainiers, just 1 step away from the major leagues. While his win-loss record was a mediocre 12-13 in 1958, he had an earned run average of 2.84. It appears Stenhouse did not receive the run support he needed to win, as the Rainiers finished with a record of 74-80 in 1958. And anybody who's familiar with baseball in Seattle at the professional level knows that that's something that they always, unfortunately, deal with, because people like Felix Hernandez, who pitched for them relatively recently, was probably the best pitcher in baseball, and probably had a record similar to 12-13 at times because he never got that run support. So I don't know if it's something in the water, but unfortunately he was subjected to that as well, because he did play quite well, but his record doesn't really reflect that. Still, he struck out just 5.3 batters per 9 innings, the lowest rate over the course of a full season in his career to that point. Prior to the 1960 season, Stenhouse returned to his home in Westerly and played for the Electric Boat basketball team in the New London City League, leading them to the championship. During the 1960 season, Stenhouse turned 27 years old, raising concerns about his potential to reach the major leagues. While this was considered older for a minor leaguer at the time, he was still a year younger than the average for the Rainiers, who had a great deal of older talent on their roster. In his second season with the Rainiers, he finished with a record of 13-12, which brought him to a perfectly even 25-25 for his 2 years in Seattle. Stenhouse's ERA this season was higher still at 4.16, but it was still serviceable, but not low enough to get him significant looks from the Major League Ball Club. And Dave Stenhouse's dedication to baseball was never in question, as he was willing to travel internationally to refine his skills. In the winters of 1959 and 1960, he traveled to the Dominican Republic, where he pitched for the Estrella Orientales. Unfortunately, statistics for these seasons are harder to come by, but the few accounts which can be located referring to Stenhouse suggest he pitched quite well. The 1961 season would once again bring more serious doubts for Stenhouse about the possibility of playing in the major leagues. Throughout the season, he pitched very well for a subpar 70-82 Jersey City Jerseys of the Class A International League. At the end of the season, he had 14 wins, 12 losses, and an ERA of 3.32. His statistics had largely improved over his 1960 performance. And here are just a couple images of his time in Jersey City. And, as you can see with the JC on one of the hats, and then the other one is blank, but they are both from that same season. After the end of the 61 season, Dave Stenhouse was named to Look magazine's All-International League team. Despite his success, Cincinnati, who struggled with pitching throughout 1961, failed to call Stenhouse up to the major leagues. In speaking with the Westerly Sun, Stenhouse made his feelings known, recalling how the Reds called up a pitcher rated much lower than him. During the interview, he proclaimed, "Either they call me up or trade me to a team that will give me a chance. Otherwise, organized baseball has seen the last of Dave Stenhouse." And that would not be, as on December 15th, 1961, his wish was granted, and he was traded along with Bob Schmidt to the Washington Senators for Marty Keough and Johnny Klipstein. And just to preface this with the Senators, so there have been a few different iterations of the Washington Senators over history. There were actually two. So there was one that played from very early around the turn of the century up to about 1960. They then moved to Minnesota and became the Minnesota Twins, but the next season, they were given another franchise, which about 11 years later ended up moving to Texas and is now the Texas Rangers. So this was an expansion team, so they were not very good. They at times were quite bad, actually. So it might not have been the happiest day to find out you were traded to them. However, it ended up working out pretty well for him. So out of spring training, Stenhouse was assigned to the major league roster, where he would remain through the 1964 season. And again, the fact that a career minor leaguer was immediately assigned to the major league roster kind of a little bit speaks to, how much help they needed. Initially, he made several relief appearances, but after performing well in these appearances, Stenhouse was given the opportunity to be a starting pitcher. This first start on May 6, 1962, came against the Yankees. In this game, Stenhouse allowed 2 doubles by Roger Maris and a home run by Mickey Mantle. Still, the Senators pulled off the victory. In his second start, he retired 19 straight Orioles, giving up only 6 hits. And here are just a few of the articles. So there's one headline about the trade that was made for him, and then you can see actually there's a picture here of him wearing a Cincinnati Reds hat, although he had never actually made it all the way up to the major leagues. But that picture with the Reds hat was actually from the Westerly Sun when the trade was announced. On August 6, 1962, the Senators visited Fenway Park, where it was declared Dave Stenhouse Day. Unfortunately, a knee injury prevented him from pitching that day. More than 1,000 Westerly residents were present to celebrate their hometown hero, and Stenhouse was named an honorary member of the Westerly Fire Department and he received several gifts, including a chair from URI, a silver cup from the Rhode Island governor, and a proclamation from the Westerly Town Council naming October 5th Dave Stenhouse Day in Westerly. And here we can actually see an ad that appeared. I believe that was from that one was from the Westerly Sun, but talking about Dave Stenhouse Day when they were playing at Fenway Park. And then there's just another image, actually, I just really enjoy that appeared in a different newspaper of him. And he might actually have been showing that grip for the knuckle curve. It's hard to tell, but definitely some of the better images there. And here, these, I believe, are also, that headline is certainly from the Westerly Sun, but these are some of the images from that day at Fenway Park. So you can see, you know, they had that ceremony and his wife and children were there. And in 1962, Stenhouse was named the starting pitcher for the American League All-Star team. At the All-Star break in July, Stenhouse had a record of 10 wins and 4 losses, but after his knee injury in the second half of the season, which is the same one that kept him out of that game at Fenway, he stumbled, going just 1-8 over the remainder of the year, finishing with a record of 11-12 with an ERA of 3.65. Despite the late season challenges, he was still named the Rhode Island Athlete of the Year by Words Unlimited, an organization of Rhode Island sports writers. He had been named the Schoolboy Athlete of the Year by the group a decade earlier in 1952. Actually, you just have a clip I wanted to show everybody here. And this is from the 1962 All-Star game.
Vince Scully.
So the person who you saw almost come out of their shoes there, as some of you saw, was Roberto Clemente, who is considered one of the best hitters of his generation. So there were definitely some pretty big moments in that first season for sure. But unfortunately, the following 2 seasons with the Senators were even more challenging for Stenhouse, as he finished an injury-riddled 1963 season with a record of 3 wins and 9 losses and an ERA of 4.55 after starting just 16 games the entire season. His season was eventually ended when he underwent surgery to remove bone chips in his right elbow. 1964 proved to be an even more difficult season, and he finished with a record of 2 wins to just 7 losses and an ERA of 4.81. And he was moved from to the bullpen after struggling as a starter. It was clear that the arm injuries that had troubled Stenhouse over the previous few seasons were proving difficult to overcome. Stenhouse did not win a game for the Senators that season until July, having started the season 0-6 with an ERA of 5.28. And here are just a couple more images from his time with the Senators. The one that is on the left is a cartoon that was, I believe, from the Providence Journal, and then the other one is just a promotional shot, but just a couple more from those early seasons. And this one is just a picture that I really enjoyed. I believe That was at his home field, so that would be RFK Stadium in Washington. And that's one of the clearer pictures I was able to find. I thought that was a great one. And after his poor performance with the Senators in 1964, Stenhouse started the 1965 season with the Class AA York White Roses, where he would spend nearly the entire season. At the age of 31, Dave Stenhouse was more than 8 years older than the average age of his teammates. Stenhouse performed well with a record of 16-15 and an ERA of 3.60, while increasing his strikeouts per 9 innings and decreasing his walks and home runs per 9. His pitching in York was enough to earn him a call-up to the Senators' Class AAA affiliate, the Hawaii Islanders. Stenhouse pitched just 6 innings across 2 starts for Hawaii in 1965. After the 1965 season, it seemed he was preparing for a career outside of baseball. In a survey he completed on November 8th of 1965, he stated his off-season career was in public relations. More tellingly, he declined to respond regarding his ambition in baseball, a question he had previously answered with "to be a good pitcher and to make good." Additionally, by the end of the 1965 season, Stenhouse and his family had relocated their off-season home to Cranston. In April of 1966, while playing basketball in the rain, he suffered a hairline fracture in his right thumb, an injury which may have hampered his pitching that season. In 1966, Stenhouse was used mostly in relief appearances, starting only 7 of the 36 games he pitched in. Although he pitched over 100 innings for the first time since 1962, Dave Stenhouse's 1966 season would prove to be the worst of his professional career, as he finished with a record of 3-7 and an ERA of 5.28. In 1967, Stenhouse returned to the Islanders for his final professional season. He would pitch in just 8 games, all in relief. While he had a respectable ERA of 3.94 and was striking out more batters on average, his age and injuries appear to have caught up with him, as he was now more than 7 years older than the average age of his teammates. Dave Stenhouse retired from baseball at the end of May in 1967. Upon his retirement, he took up a position as a supervisor and special agent of the Provident Mutual Life Insurance Company. He also pitched in the Providence Amateur Baseball League. In December 1968, Stenhouse was named the varsity baseball coach and assistant basketball coach at Rhode Island College. In 1979, he led the team to the College World Series, making them the first team from the state to play in the tournament. And there are a few more of the images of his time when he was coaching at Rick. And in 1981, he became the coach for the Brown University baseball team, where he remained until the end of the 1990 season when he retired. Both of Dave's sons also played professional baseball. Mike Stenhouse was drafted 4th overall in the 1980 MLB draft and played parts of 2 seasons in the majors, including his stint with the Red Sox. Dave Stenhouse Jr. played several years in the minor leagues in the Toronto Blue Jays system. In addition to his work on the diamond, Stenhouse was also beloved in the community, known for serving as a Cub master and enjoying and organizing golf tournaments that earned over $400,000 for the Jimmy Fund. Dave Stenhouse died on November 11th, 2023 at the age of 90. And here I actually just have a chart that kind of shows the wide expanse of his career. And if you take it all the way back to when he started at Westerly in 1949 and until he retired in 1967, it's a pretty long and successful baseball career by most measures. And I also just like this chart because it's really interesting to think about where baseball was at the end of the 40s and where it ended up at the end of the 60s. And it was a completely different world in a lot of ways, and especially in baseball at that time. So it's really interesting to kind of just think about where he started and where he ended up. And also it shows how far and wide he ended up moving to play baseball at various times. And I gives you an appreciation for his family that they kind of put up with that too and moved around so much, because if you're going from Louisiana to Colorado to New Jersey. That's a lot of moving around. And if you're able to join us at the exhibit in a few minutes, these are some cards that you'll see we actually have on display, but these are ones that are part of our collection. So there's two from 1963, one from 64, and then one from 65 as well. And then here's a couple more. We actually also have the 1985 one shown here, but the other two we do not yet have, but there's quite an array and a pretty good collection of baseball cards for his professional career. And I just want to close by saying a few things that should be considered when looking at his career overall. So the overall record of the teams that he played for during his professional career was 1,072 wins and 1,277 losses, which comes to a winning percentage of just .456. When one considers his career winning percentage of .516, you have to remember that the teams he played for were losing more than they were winning, and yet he still managed to win more than half of his games. And I'm going to do something here that really shouldn't be done for statistics purposes, but we're going to do it anyways. Comparing players from his era to the modern era is very difficult because it was a completely different game, but if we wanted to do that, his career ERA of 4.14 would have placed him as a number 2 starter for the Red Sox in 2024, and it probably would have been good enough to earn him a spot on a rotation for the Dodgers, who won the World Series last year, just going off of that earned run average alone. So it really, while there were some tough seasons in the pros, overall, it was a very good career that definitely is one worth celebrating and, definitely should be considered to be a success. So with that, are you going to go over there? Or,